Hi guys, welcome back. I'm Eileen Chevalier and we are learning about botany today with my typewriter alphabet flashcards. Today we're going to look at pistils and stamen. The two sexual parts of a flower are the pistil, which is female. Sometimes you'll hear this called the carpel, and the stamen, which is male. In this lesson we'll look at the structure of the stamens and the pistils as well as their relationship. So first off, you're going to need some materials. Make sure you have your journal, your flashcards, and the flashcards we're going to use today are 3 and 4, but we're actually going to look at a bunch of other cards, so just keep them handy. Then you'll want to have the Ultimate Visual Dictionary, which you know I love, and the Smithsonian Flora book, which you know I love, maybe even more. All right, before we get started, let's write down some definitions. So grab out your journal and I will read these for you. Stamen, male part of the flower, which has the filament and the anther. Anther has the pollen on it. The pistil is the female part of the flower, where the ovary, style, and stigma are connected. All right, first question. Read the 3 and 4 flashcards to learn the parts of the pistil and stamen. Can you identify the separate parts on the flashcards? Open up some fresh flowers as well. What does the stigma feel like? Now, if you're looking at flowers, the stigma may feel very different depending on what stage it's in. So if it's like brand new, it's going to feel one way. If it's ready to be fertilized, it's going to feel a different way. If it's already been fertilized, then it's going to feel really different. So at all those different stages, it's going to feel differently. So it'd be really cool if you could get a plant that has lots of different blooms at different stages, and then you can compare them. Is there pollen on the anther? So again, that will change over time. Is it easier to bend or break the pistil or the stamen, and why do you think that is? So it would be really great if you could watch a plant with a lot of different flowers as they progressively bloom, and then you can kind of keep track of them as they go along and what happens to each of those parts as the flower develops. So let's read the 3 and 4 cards. So this is our three pistils. The female part of the flower is called the pistil. You may, like I said, also hear this called the carpel. And there's this weird, confusing relationship between pistils and carpels. I'm still working on this. I tagged a couple of those, not tagged them. It's Pinterest. I have a Pinterest board just for docent, and put a couple different illustrations on there to try to help us understand the difference between carpels and pistils. I'm going to use the word pistil. The tip of the pistil is the stigma. It's sticky so that pollen will attach to it. And that's obviously when it's ready to have pollen attached to it. It's not always sticky. The long middle part of the pistil is the style. When pollen lands on the stigma, a tube is created. Not already there. It is created when the pollen lands. And the tube goes all the way through the style. So the pollen travels in style down to the base, which is the ovary, where the pollen combines with ovules to create seeds. So those are the 3 parts of the pistil that we want to learn. And then we have 4 stamens. Now, guys, I originally had done this as 4 stamina, because if you were being technical with the Latin, you would say stamina instead of stamens, but alas, it's stamens on here. The male part of the flower is the stamen, which is singular. There are usually many stamens or stamina, and their job is to provide pollen to the pistil. Each stamen is made of a long filament with an anther at the tip that's covered in pollen. Some of the drawings in the alphabet have stamens and some don't. Why? Stamens can fall off after they pollinate the pistil. So plants like to nourish the parts of them that are doing a good job and work that's needed. So sometimes when a plant part isn't needed anymore, for instance, the petals don't stay on the plant even while a fruit is developing. They fall off because they're not needed anymore. They already attracted the pollinators. All right, look through the flashcards and compare the number of stamen and the number of pistils. Each pistil has a single ovary, but can have more than one carpel. For instance, the iris has one compound pistil with 3 fused carpels. So here's where I said it was a little confusing. But if you watch the iris dissection video, then I cut apart an ovule that has, or an ovary that has like 3 sections within it. So hopefully that will help clear that up a little bit. So 3 fused carpels, it's just one piece at the bottom. And then at the top of it, there are also 3 different styles and stigma, but then at the base, it's all one unit. So they're fused together at the base. Rose has one very compound pistil. Look at how many styles come up from the one fused ovary. So you can look at that on your cards as well. I didn't get that one out yet for us. Compare the ovaries of the H, L, and Q cards. Where are the stamen located relative to the ovary? Which flower is hypogynous? Hypo means under, and gynous means ovary. Which is perigynous? Para, like perimeter, means around, and which is epigynous, and epi means above or on top of. So we're going to look at these and see if we can figure it out. The hellebore is a little tricky, so we'll look at it and see. This might be the best side. So here's our ovary, and it is really like sticking out. If the flower were like this, it'd be like on top of everything else. So the stamen are going to come out down here. So the stamen are going to be below where the ovary is. So if they're below, then it is hypogynous. So that's our H. Then we'll look at the L, and this may or may not be totally perfectly accurate, but it's the best example I have in the alphabet. So our ovary is right here and right next to the ovary, around it. So what is around? Peri, like perimeter. So around the ovary we have the stamen. So that would be perigynous. And then we're going to look at the Q, and the Q is really cool. So these, the stamen in this one are actually attached way up high to the receptacle up here, and the ovary is down here at the base. So in this one, it's very clear example of it being epigynous, because epi means above or on top of. And do you see how these stamen are so high above this ovary? So that's epigynous. So those are the 3 cards there, and you can go through in the other cards. Some of them are difficult because not every flower has the stamen on it, but you can sometimes tell where they would be. And just look through in the books as well that you have, or pictures of flowers, to think about where is that ovary in relationship to them. And later when we get to the fruit, where the ovary is sitting actually determines how the fruit forms as well, which is pretty cool. If you want to use coloring pages to label those things as well, you can do that and put that in your journal. Speaking of your journal, a couple of activities for today. Look at the magnified pollen grains on page 198 of Flora and pages 144 and 145 of the Ultimate Visual Dictionary. Draw a few of your favorites in your journal. Did you notice that monocots and magnoliidae have 1 pore on their pollen grains, and eudicots have 3? So try to make sure you get at least 1 monocot and 1 eudicot so you can get the different pollen grains. And I will just show you those pictures really quickly. So 1, and this is such a cool picture. So you see all of these stamen all around. This is the pistil right here. So these are the stigmas coming up, and the styles coming up, and the stigma are on the tip of each of these. These are all really large, and then all of the male parts are really tiny all around it. So there is the anther that will have the pollen on it, and this long piece is the filament. You can't see the ovary of this one because it's below there. And then these are the pollen grains, magnified, of course. It's amazing how diverse they are. Like, you don't ever really see pollen grains. But when you can get an up close view of them, they look incredibly different. And 46. So here we have all of the different pollen grains at the bottom of the page. All right, then the final activity is use the flashcards to see if you can identify the pistil and stamens and their parts on each card. Like I said, you can't do it on every card. But if you print out the A through D coloring pages, you can label the stamen and pistil parts. The D's look especially easy to see the stamen on there. You might want to color code the pistils and stamens. So this is a really cool one. Like if you want to print them all out on the same sheet, you can just sometimes in your printer you can select how many pages you want on a sheet. I know you can do 2. If you can, maybe you could just do it on 2 different ones. And then instead of coloring them like a normal one, just color all of your stamen, you know, one color like red, and then all of the pistil a different color like blue, and so that you can see the differences and where they are in relationship to one another. And make sure you can, if you can, make sure you get the ovary in there so you can tell whether it's hypogynous, epigynous, or paragynous. All right. Thanks, guys. I'll see you next time. Bye.